So from one comic book movie to another, let's talk about The Flash. So this is the key point here. There's two elements. This is the production designer. They quote a figure for the budget. It's bollocks. I did a video on it earlier. It's unequivocal nonsense. We're going to talk about it. But the second element here is that he basically says, I don't think people are going to care about what Ezra Miller's done. It's like, I wouldn't be so sure about that. So let's take a look, right? What's the what this guy's pretty big in the industry, but there's not really any point sort of getting into that element of him. But basically, he says it's kind of funny that I was able to actually do the real deal. But doing the real deal for the roughly $220 million budgeted, The Flash posed its own pressures and greater risks. The movie is a big deal for Warner Brothers. Right, let's talk about it. $220 million. That's nonsense.
Well,
it's got to be more than that.
It's more than that.
Bollocks. You're looking at $300 million for this. Easy.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. This is going to be right up there with Justice League, the $300 million. Yeah, because again, even more. I mean, how many reshoots did Tom? How many reshoots?
I lost count, but
yeah, there's so many.
There was like the initial round, and there was like another round, and then there was the round that was done this last year that I'm not even sure if they're going to implement much of.
But then you got to remember this is sat on ice. Sat on ice for
2-3 years.
2 years.
Interest on financiers. Yeah. There's interest on those payments.
Look, I've heard this thing is upwards. I've heard this could be the most expensive movie Warner Brothers has ever made.
Jeez, Pete.
I can believe it. You also then have to remember that isn't even the marketing budget, which we know that they paid like well over $40 million for their Super Bowl ad, because we know how much the 30-second ad rates were costing. We know it was like 2.5 minutes.
And I've made the argument that I'm kind of to the point where I think they almost want to lose money on this movie or not make any real money on it, because then they don't have to pay anybody for it. Because this is just basically that's how it becomes a write-off at that point. They couldn't dump the movie like they did with Batgirl, because that was a totally different scenario. Yeah. That was straight to streaming. You didn't have back-end deals. You didn't have the same type of licensing deals and stuff like that. I'm sure that they could eat, to where in this situation they couldn't. And at the end of the day, it's like the movie, the producers, the Mel Brooks film. If they lose money or don't make any money, then they're better off, because then they don't have to pay anybody. And point to look at would be Wonder Woman 84, because that was simultaneous. They ended up having to pay out a crap ton of money to Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins for it. And we all know that even if it wasn't for COVID, there was no way that movie was going to make any money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, word of mouth would have got out about it pretty quick. Like, that would have been one of the biggest disappointments had it been a normal box office. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And I don't see this movie making much more than $700 million at the best.
No, DC films classically underperform. You're being very kind, Tom.
Well, no, on the 220 budget, that's bullshit. I say double that.
Yeah.
And then some.
Double?
Whoa.
I have heard. Okay, well, first of all, for me to be told it was the most expensive movie Warner Brothers has ever made, from my recollection, what was the budget for Justice League? 350, I think was the reported budget.
300 plus.
Yeah, it was 300 plus was the reported budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We know it was more.
And what did we learn like last week or the week before? That these movies cost a lot more than they're kind of telling us, right?
Yeah, because that's their initial. That's their initial production financing.
Exactly. Yep. I have been hearing this movie is upwards of like $500 some at the end of the day, or $500 some million at the end of the day, when you add in all the extra bullshit that has come along with it.
Wow.
That's just what the rumors I've been told. And I can't specify. I've heard like 450. I've heard 5. I've heard 535. Somewhere in that region.
Yeah. I believe an easy, cool 300 easily. Like, I believe that all day, every day.
Oh yeah.
Upwards of that, I start to go, I don't know. But
when you factor in a lot of the COVID stuff too, because they shot during COVID,
25% extra. Yeah, you are right. There is elements there which would make me go, yeah, there's potentially some truth to that. And Nick,
and almost every shot is a special effects shot when you have Ezra Miller on screen twice.
Well, so part of this, just to sort of quickly interject, part of what they made, right? They actually built the Batcave
Again?
So
the reshoots.
So listen, the original Batcave from Batman Returns, originally crafted using camera trickery and matte paintings, was actually practically built for real this time. They also had to make a Batwing, right? It was reconstructed and updated because the original vehicle only had one seater. Because the original only had one seater, so they needed to make one with 3.
Well, no, but why would you need to build one? You just need to build the cockpit.
Mate, I'm not honestly. Batmobile was flown in by Warner Brothers. There's so many things which add up in monetary value. The Batcave being correct. I mean,
I knew there was something up with the Batmobile because a couple of years back they bought the Batmobile back from the guy who found one of the original ones. I don't know if you guys followed that story at all, but so this has been a long journey because they ended up screwing up the 2 Batmobiles they had left, I guess, and somebody found one languishing in a junkyard.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this: Warner Brothers' reportedly most expensive film is Justice League, with that initial budget at 300. But we know they spent we know we spent at least $30 million removing digitally Cavill's facial hair.
Fuck's sake! Which someone did at home.
We know that went through one round of reshoots on top of it all. And that, again, these are numbers that I don't think are in the original budget. So there's a lot going on there. Tom, I think, would you think that Justice League was around 400 billion?
No, I'd say between 3 and 350 because they did shoot the movie technically twice.
Yeah, I would say 350.
But that was,
I think that's fair. But so if Flash costs more than that, which it probably did, especially because of what Mr.
I would say probably closer to the 400 range at least.
I think they might be over 400. They sat on the film for 2 years. There's a lot of interest going on there.
No,
Your initial production financing is not getting paid off.
Yeah.
They're,
like I said, I've heard multiple quotes, but they all range way higher than that. That's why I said add it, double it, almost triple it, maybe.
Nick, we haven't heard from you yet, mate.
I'm curious on how many post-production effect shots they had to redo with the reshoots. Because if they had to dump a lot of money into a lot of that, I can definitely easily see this being at like 4.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. I haven't seen any details come out on how much stuff they redid with reshoots or post-production stuff or any of that. So, I mean, is that something at the end of the day when it's all said and done and the movie comes out? Are those numbers ever generally leaked out or publicly put out there?
Only by way of sort of technicalities. So like, the Jurassic World numbers officially came out because they had their productions in the UK where they have to file it and it has to be revealed and it's public information. So it's because for tax purposes. So we have access to that information and it's very clear cut. But these probably not. I can't imagine this is going to be anyway.
Adjusting for inflation, probably the most expensive movie to be made ever was The Force Awakens. Because that adjusted for
Endgame.
Yeah, I'll double check, but Force Awakens now, if you made it now for its $487 million budget, or excuse me, $447 million budget, it would now cost.
I forgot how much that cost.
Yeah, it would now cost them $587 million to make.
Where did the money go in that movie too? Because I just don't see it on screen at all.
And that's just production costs. Because if you spend $500 million making a film, how much money?
I love Nick's laugh there too, because he knows what I'm talking about. Like, there's nothing special in that movie.
Yeah,
nothing that like blows your lid. Going, oh my god, they created a new something or other or anything with that movie.
Daisy Ridley.
Well, let's not get too sort of off track there, guys. Because there's there's another element here that I wanted to touch on.
Let's say
which was he's literally asked, right? So scroll through, blah blah blah, and they say, look, at the same time, these movies live or die by the reputations of the actors that lead them. In the Flash's case, that's Ezra Miller, the beleaguered star of the film, who's been arrested numerous times in the past few years, and video choking a woman. That represents a huge risk for the film and those who've dedicated the past few years to it. But Austerberry says he's not too concerned about how the story surrounding Miller will affect the film. He says, people will forget that, he said, noting that Miller did a superb job playing the titular hero as two distinct characters, which required production to shoot the film in 2 different chunks, with Ezra Miller switching roles every few days. To Austerberry's recollection, Miller only had 3 days off for the total shoot, working 6 days a week and spending Saturdays in stunt rehearsals. So a lot of pressure. I don't give a shit about the pressure. I just think it's a shame when people, like, he kind of has to say this, but don't shrug it off, because people won't, not everyone will forget what Ezra Miller's done.
I don't think anybody's. I'm sorry, Nate. I don't think anybody's going to forget what he's done. I mean, it was
there are people. Like, honestly, it's naive to think that there aren't. There are people that just go, I don't give a shit. I'm going to go anyway, right? You know.
Okay.
There are, and you know, that's
you're right.
You know, it's their prerogative, I guess. But to outrightly say that won't, you know, people, who cares? Like, that's the stance that he's taking.
It's very dismissive.
It's that egotistic element of Hollywood that has to die, especially when you're spending over $220 million on a film. You know, you have to protect that film a little bit more than just be like, who cares? Whatever. It's just nonsense. So yeah, sorry, culture.
Please no, it's fine. I mean, you're right. It's me being maybe oversimplifying things, but I still think there are a lot of people who have pretty decent memories, especially with so many issues. You know, you just think of how many different times he got in trouble. Dude, he broke into somebody's house and stole their booze. You know,
well, that was a felony charge that he got.
I think the bigger, you know, a lot of people show like, oh, they're keeping Ezra, but they got rid of Henry. Okay, like both Safran and Gunn have been asked in the last couple of weeks about him, and both of their answers have been pretty politically.
We'll see.
We'll see. Which to me in Hollywood speak is not effing likely. Are they coming back? They're done. They just need to keep him under wraps until this movie is in theaters. Then they will set his craziness free and he is on his own.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that.